Am I right in thinking that you went to South America fairly recently?
Last year,
last
year we did 2 shows in Mexico City and a show in Santiago.
Is that the first time you'd ever played over there?
Yeah.
What was that like?
Mental. It was like 1979. We did a club show in Mexico City, and then a festival in Mexico, and then down to do the Lollapalooza thing in Santiago. But that club show in Mexico City that sold out just like that was wild. It was absolute, because it's the first time we'd been there. Right. You know, I mean, that wasn't a market in 1980. You know, Chile was in the thrall of, you know, Pinochet. It was a dictatorship, wasn't it? So, you know, and there we are in Santiago. You know, it was incredible. It was really, really cool.
Did people have suits? Were people coming in?
Oh yeah. Wow. But it's just that uniform, you know, that sort of, it has just sort of spread all over the world, which is extraordinary.
Where do you like playing most? You know, which
the Broomfield Tavern. It's in.
Well, you've got your own band, haven't you?
It's in Coventry. Yeah. It's just opposite the Dyer's Arms in Spon End. Yeah, it's great. It's really good. It's a room about the size of the toilet in there. It's great.
Yeah.
It's really good fun.
Because you've continued to play, haven't you? You never really stopped playing.
No, I'm a musician. It's what I do. You know, when the specials finished, I played in general public with Dave and Roger from the Beat, and then Special Beat and various other things. I had a blues band with Neil Davis from the Selector for a while, and for the past 11 years, I've had this little 4-piece blues combo that works in Coventry. We once went as far north as Burton-on-Trent and as far south as Cheltenham, but we didn't like it, you know. So we just play round about. It's great fun.
So if there are any promoters in the house tonight who want to bring them a little bit further,
no, but it's great. It's, you know, playing music is lovely.
But it's not the only thing, because you ended up in Coventry because you were studying fine art.
Yes, I have a degree. Well, that's where I met Jerry Dammers. I mean, he started in '73, and I when I was in my second year.
It was a pretty way out. I mean, it's now a university, but I don't think it was then. But it's really well known for being super experimental.
The art and language people.
That's right.
Came
yeah,
from
the art language. That's right.
Sort of were based in Coventry, and that was kind of weird. If you were, because I ended up doing sculpture, that sort of minimalist sort of stuff, which is basically you didn't have to do much work. You could do, but you know, if you were an object maker, you know, you were kind of sneered at. If you were a painter, you were sort of considered like less than a single-celled animal. You know, what's all this sort of stuff. So it was quite heavy, you know, going there. But I had a great time, and I learned to play a bass guitar, which really helped. You know.
At what point during your studies did you think, I need to learn to play bass here, or was it filling something that you weren't getting from the art?
I think towards the end of the course, it was obviously, it's like the art thing didn't really sort of work for me because I couldn't see much of a future in going on the art college route. What do? You go to the Royal College, or you go to, you know, the schools in London. And to be honest, I was in this band, and we'd started doing gigs that people danced to and clapped, which was a rarity, you know, for all the other silly groups that I was in before then. And it was great fun. But art was always something that I enjoyed doing. You know, it's never gone away, but it just changed priorities a bit. It's all come. Changed a bit now.
Well, you know, the reason we met last year was because you had an exhibition up in Harrogate.
Yeah. I'm with all the. Well, I was an art teacher.
That's right.
Back in 1993, I trained. I finally made use of my degree and did a PGCE thing. So I qualified as a school teacher. And I was working. I was the art department in this little special needs school just outside Coventry, which was great fun. It was really, really good, and that made me think an awful lot about, you know, about art and how to sell it to children who perhaps, you know, didn't have a great deal of, you know, confidence or good sort of motor skills and that sort of stuff, which was great. It was really good. So I ended up with a bit more focused idea on what to do, and with all the time, you know, all the downtime with the specials, I've been able to get this parallel career going.
Are you still painting?
Oh yes, yeah. There are some articles of clothing that I have that don't have paint on, but they're few and far between.
Out in your Sunday best today. Yeah. What is your style of painting?
Pop art. I'm a child of the 60s, so, you know, Warhol, Peter Blake, I love Peter Blake, and that whole sort of thing about elevating the mundane, ordinary things. I've got a thing about cassettes, audio cassettes, on Sony Walkmans and stuff like that, things that have very little relevance now, but they're memory triggers, you know, and especially as a musician, the recording studios, the cassettes, you know, that from albums that you know and love, but were just like the backing tracks and that sort of stuff.
What's your favourite cassette design?
Well, the Power Station one in New York is really quite nice. I like that. And there's a Russian website of like millions of cassettes, and I sort of plough through that and sort of find all these. I'm doing a Memorex one at the moment, which is got lots of different colours on it.
Remember Soundhog? Huh? Remember Soundhog? Remember there was a little hog with the little horn on each as a trunk.
Yeah, okay, all right.
That was my favourite.
All right, yeah.
Question time. I'd like to take a question from the audience. I know that somebody has got a question that they want to ask. Charlie.
Charlie.
Tell us about pre-specials when you were playing in the band before the specials. You told me earlier you were doing the working men's club.
Oh, crikey, yeah.
Well, let's have it out.
I was in the college band, which was great fun. So I learnt to play in the college band. When that split, me and the drummer, we met up with a girl and her husband. So she sang, he played guitar, and I was a bass player. And we played in this, and he was like, he'd played working men's clubs. Let's get this band together. We can make some money. So we got the obligatory 2:45s or 3 half hours. We used to do this amazing version of Bridge Over Troubled Waters, brought the house down. But it was, and you could play working men's clubs, and you got, I think 35. So what?
Any reggae playing?
No, goodness gracious me. And discos, you go to disco, and that was embarrassing. We emptied disco floors throughout the Midlands, but we ended up going to, we spent a week in like Sunderland or Middlesbrough or Newcastle, the graveyard of entertainment, where you were basically just the support act to the bingo. It was great, and we would do knock 3 times, and I saw her standing there, and all that, it was like that wheel tappers and shunters kind of thing, and these sort of things where play a whole load of ballads and just play sort of 2 dance songs at the end. You're joking, It was hilarious.
The 70s were great.
But it got me to be confident on stage, and I think if you can do that for 18 months and still want to be in a group, you're in with a chance. It was great fun. We had these digs in Sunderland that we used to stay at, and there would, as often as not, there'd be other acts there, other sort of show bands or whatever. And if you were really lucky, you'd have a comedian. And if you were really, really lucky, you'd have 2 comedians. So everybody would pile back after their gigs at like sort of midnight or whatever. And these 2 comedians sort of weren't ready to go to bed. And so there was this sort of like face-off with these 2 guys telling jokes till like 3 in the morning. And it was hilarious. It was really, really fun.
Comedian face-off.
Yeah, it was absolutely great. And of course these guys, if you were really talented, you got to go on New Faces. You remember that?
Yeah.
And it was
Was that Mickey Mouse? Was he one of them?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Go a long, long way. He's very good to go a long, long way. Yeah, it was great fun. So that was kind of what that was about. But we were going nowhere fast, really. It was, but like I say, it gave me the confidence to it made me feel a lot more confident on stage and enjoyed performing. It was great fun.
And
we had a van too. But the van always kept breaking down. So any money that we actually made was basically spent, upkeeping this van. It was appalling. We were on the dole as well. You couldn't.
What was the transition like from going and playing the sort of stuff you were playing there to then going and playing reggae type of stuff? How easy did you find that?
It was it was kind of difficult, but it wasn't too bad. It was, 'cause I could play the soul stuff. So it was just a bit of and I was used to that sort of walking bass sort of thing. But Limval and Desmond Brown, who was the keyboard player in the Selector, they used to come around my flat, you know, with sort of, and give me reggae lessons. You know, come on, Horace, the bass go like this, you know, and it was like, okay. And then I think when one night they took me to a blues at someone's house, and stood me in front of one of those big cabinets, you know, where I finally understood what they were on about, the physical power of that music. And it's like, okay, yeah, I get it, you know, and it kind of developed from there. So it didn't come naturally, but I learned. I think I did research. And Jerry wrote most of those early bass lines,
right.
And you know, and they were fantastic. They were really good. The bass line to "Doesn't Make It All Right" is lovely. You know, ba-da, 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 you know, and yeah. So it was. I can say it wasn't. I'm not going to say it was easy, but it was more to like understanding the feel of the music. And I think ska helps. You know, when Brad came on board, beginning of '79, we were both we were on pretty much the same sort of playing field. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess going back to Brad, I mean that's going to be an unusual one for you, you know, because the drummer and the bass player, that, you know, the backbone of a band.
It's not going to hit me, I think, until we actually start playing. You know, we've got Gary Powell from the Libertines is playing with us, which is very cool. He used to play with Eddie Grant. He used to work for him in Los Angeles, which I didn't know, but that's real cool. But that's going to be weird, so I'm sure we will refer to him as Brad at some stage, you know, and I'll sort of, but hey, but that's what we're going to do. We start rehearsing in June with him.
Great.
Yeah.
When are you touring?
We've got 3 weeks in America in September, and we start halfway through October for a month. York is York.
Just a quick check. Who's off to that tour?
Okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's a good 50%. There's some over there who maybe yet to be convinced, but what's it going to be? You know, what music? Are you writing new music?
It's the last time we played with Brad. We knocked out some ideas just for some new stuff or some other cover versions or whatever, just to sort of to see what happened. But it's all been pretty much put on the back burner really, with Brad dying. So I'm not really sure. I mean, we're sort of working out a new set list. It's, you know, all the old stuff. So no is probably the polite answer to that.
Right.
Yeah.
We've got other questions. Anybody like to ask a question? Toby.
Hello.
Hiya.
Yeah, so a few weeks ago I was listening to an archive show, The Round Table, which is the show whereby they get kind of well-known musicians of that period to talk about new records that have been released. And I think the archive was from 1980, and it had Annie Nightingale on and Mick Jagger. I think the first record that they played was Kate Bush. They said, I think Mick Jagger said that she was an interesting girl, but he didn't quite get her. But he said his favourite band was the Specials. I think they reviewed Man at CNA.
Okay.
But they also chatted about the fact that Mick Jagger tried to sign you. I mean, is there any truth in that?
We played the Fulham Greyhound in 1979. This was when we did a week of shows in London. It was the big record company, you know, sort of feeding fest. And apparently I didn't see him, but Mick Jagger was came to see the show with his bodyguard or whatever. And well, the various stories. It was like archetypal, you know. My friends came up to me afterwards. I said, "There was this bloke in the audience, looked just like Mick Jagger," you know, that sort of thing. But apparently, he'd heard the chords to the opening of Little Bitch, which of course we stole from Brown Sugar, and then he sort of turned up his nose and left. So I don't know. Perhaps, you know, you never let the truth get in the way of a good story, do you? So yeah, he was aware. Well, I did meet the remains of Keith Richards in New York. the next
Did
year.
you try and snort him?
No, this was 1980. He wasn't sort of in a particularly good space, shall we say, at that time. It was like the scariest man I'd ever met in my life, honestly.
He looks really scary, doesn't he?
I'm glad he doesn't live next door to me, I tell you. No, but that was cool. So yeah, that's my sort of tenuous Rolling Stone.
Question from that was, you know, at the time, obviously there was the scene happening with two-tone in around the Midlands area or whatever. Was there any other record labels that were after you at all, and did you ever consider it? Or
well, in the end, we signed with Chrysalis because we said, okay, we this was the big thing. We could have stayed with a major. We could have stayed independent and had just released and gone with like Rough Trade or whatever. But we didn't really have the business acumen. So the deal was to sign to a major label to get all that nuts and bolts stuff done, but to sign our label to a major. So I think Arista were interested, Polydor were interested, but they wanted us to be on Polydor or Arista, whereas Chrysalis says, yeah, you know, you can have whatever you like on the records, as long, you know. So we signed the specials as two-tone records to. We ended up with Chrysalis, which, and you know, we had this proviso where we could release other albums, which you know, as far as they were concerned, was like, you know, easy life. You know, they had this new A&R department for nothing, you know, that selected these, you know, with Madness and the Beat and the Selector, who sold anyway. It was good for them. Elvis Costello did a song on two-tone too, and. It never got released because they did it without asking us, which is kind of a shame. And Blondie, you remember The Tide Is High by Blondie? She wanted the specials to play on that and release that on two-tone as well. But it's like, well, we were more about new bands. UB40 sent a demo, a tape as well, but they were kind of like a straight reggae band, as opposed to something that sort of had that sort of punk thing with it as well.
Who was running two to them? Was it Jerry or was it a collective?
It was supposed to be a collective, but it was Jerry who called the shots, really.
You have another question? Gentleman over there.
I saw the specials. Well, we thought it was just going to be Never on His Own at Festival. It must be 08, 09 before the gig at Reading Square the next summer. Can you tell us how that all came about? And did because Terry came on and a couple of other lads, and were you involved in that? Because it was absolutely torrential rain. Me and my mate were up, our boot wellies were filled with mud, and we were just there going, okay, James, it's everybody. And we thought it was an amazing moment. And did Rob the band get involved, or how did that come about?
This was our first sort of tentative toe in the water.
Yeah,
it was September 2008, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the end of that summer, wasn't it? It was. Yeah.
Well, it was pretty scary because it was like we talked about, you know, whether we were going to do this, and it was without Jerry, and it was. And they traditionally have this kind of surprise guest on the Saturday afternoon, don't they? And it was.
Some other hopeless, but then we were like, next song, this would be amazing. Everyone else wanted.
It was kind of, my wife was there. It was kind of, there was very few people there at the beginning, you know, in between we were at the changeover, and I think then we started, and the whole place. By the time we finished, it was like people as far as you could see. It was really good. I mean, it was really wet, wasn't it? It was like it was really muddy.
I'm Scottish, and it was wet for me, so.
Yeah. But that was our first sort of let's see if this is going to work, shall we? And you know the response was fantastic.
Was it a surprise, that response for you?
Well, we knew that it was kind of the right time to do it again, because of the sort of the groundswell of sort of, you know, fans and various websites and this, that, that. But we just didn't know to what extent. I mean, I was still a school teacher, You know, we did festival on the it was the first weekend of term. So I went, you know, it's like, oh God, you know, Friday night, stop shouting at children, drove down to Winchester, and then got the ferry on the Saturday, you know, was a rock star again, and then went back to shouting at children again the following Monday, and it was kind of really, really weird. But then with that knowledge that I knew that, you know, I think we might be able to do something with this, you know. So, and then we sort of had, we put the tour on sale sort of towards the end of that year. It was extraordinary doing that. Yeah, we knew that it was going to, but we didn't know to what extent it was going to work. I thought I was just going to take a year off, you know, do this for a while, and then go back to school teaching. But you know, but I'm still here, you know.
I mean, that's like, it's 8 years ago now, and you know, it's had incredible longevity, hasn't it?
Well, yeah, well, the music's great, and you know, and we play it good, I think. Yeah, yeah.
Must have felt like a victory walking on, and by the end of it, people were.
The scariest show for us, I think, was when we put that 2009 tour on, and we played in Newcastle. The first show was in Newcastle, which is like, you know, the hardcore of the hardcore were at that one, you know, and it's like, you know, we did that the whole sort of like hour and 10-minute set in like sort of 49 minutes, you know. It was, you know, it was my life flashed before my eyes before that. I mean, we had that kabuki curtain that came down first off, and like, you know, those sort of like 30 seconds, and we always would play 54-46 was my number, Toots and the Maytals, before we came on, and that still has that kind of Pavlov kind of, you know, emotion whenever I hear it. It's like, oh my God, showtime, you know. It still has that now.
Do you still get nervous before going on?
Yes.
Do you?
Yeah. Yeah, I get nervous before I play at the Broomfield Tavern. I got nervous half an hour ago. You know, yes, well, just to get, you know, if I didn't, you know, but it's just it's how I, you know, it's how I do it. You know. I get very envious of people who can just sort of walk on. I'm nowhere near the quivering mess that I was back in 1979. I was hopeless. I would sort of sit in a corner of the room and shiver. What's his face from the? I'm going to say the Kings of Leon. What are the Kaiser Chiefs? What's his name? On The Voice, yeah. He apparently sort of he throws up and all this kind of stuff beforehand. I'd never got as bad as that. But about half an hour, 20 minutes before showtime, I'll sort of sit side stage, you know, okay, can go away, just let me focus on this, you know, give me my guitar 10 minutes before showtime. Once I'm on, I'm fine.
How long does it take for you to get into it on stage? Or, I mean, you know, how long before you can actually turn around and look into people's eye? Does it happen fairly quickly, or? Pretty
much. I mean, I spend the first 3 numbers, you know, obviously making sure the stage is all right, you know. Yeah. But yeah, so it's pretty much sort of set straight away, really, I suppose. But it's just something that I've just, you know, it's just how I cope with it.